Welcome to another episode of Message from Mom, where we're busting the myth that mothers-in-law aren't necessarily monsters-in-law. And this is our first podcast of 2025, ladies, which is pretty exciting.
It is.
And so we're going to take a look at New Year's resolutions and if we have any. But I thought it would be fun to take a look back at 2024 and some of the things that hit the news. Maybe we can even bring in some personal things. And we have a new setup if you haven't noticed. So we are finally out of my dining room upstairs and we're downstairs in my brand new studio, although our table and two chairs are still missing. So this is kind of an ad hoc situation here. So we're going to hold our microphones and take a look at our computer, and we're going to have to walk, talk, and chew gum at the same time. But before we get into it, ladies, let's raise our glass and a toast, because we know you don't have to be a blood relative to love your relative. Or maybe we don't love each other today, but we're gonna fake it.
Cheers.
We've just had too much of everything today.
Mm-hmm.
Or I should say I have. But anyway. So my message from Mom monologue today is really just very short and sweet. I always like to go back to my parents. I really like to think of this podcast as a generational podcast. And I always think of my mom and dad. And we always had very low key get togethers for New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And we never had New Year's resolutions either. So it was always very low key.
Yeah.
No resolutions, because my parents were firm believers that really you would make a resolution and then you would break it like 3 days later. So so why
They're
bother?
not wrong about that.
They're not wrong about that. So honestly, I never put a lot of stock into New Year's resolutions, and that really goes back to my mom and dad. But what I do like, what I've always loved, is how at the end of 2024, I always love those shows that focus on what happened in the past year, and the highlights. I just love the highlight reel. So
Yeah.
so we're going to kick it off with that first, and then we will talk about some New Year's resolutions and things like that and go into the history of that. So, ladies, well, we can't start it off with, do you make New Year's resolutions? I just shared that I don't. I never have. But I will share something that I did start a couple of years ago. But so, do you create New Year's resolutions?
Not. I don't think in the kind of way that people think about doing it. Like I might say to myself, this year I'm going to be better at doing X, Y, or Z. But it's not something that I haven't done before or hadn't already been doing. I
Mhm.
just kind of tried to resolve to be a bit more committed, and it's usually always something like exercise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So like fitness, wellness, things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
or this year actually, and this is kind of a big one because ever since I stopped running the cooking blog that I was doing,
Mhm.
I don't, we don't really have a dinner time schedule anymore because
Mhm.
I got really out of practice because I would make basically our dinner in midday so that I could shoot photos of
Right.
the food in daylight.
Yeah.
So I think this year, one of my kind of silent New Year's resolutions is to just be better about cooking dinner at a normal time of the evening.
Oh,
And actually
nice.
sitting down and having a dinner
Oh, nice.
with my husband.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, at least I mean, you can at least just plan it like once or twice a week, or
Exactly.
3 times a week. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be every single night.
Yeah.
But that would.
It's a doable. Yeah, I think
It's definitely
it's an
doable.
easy doable thing
That's
that helps us get back on track,
Yes.
just being on the same page as each other.
Uh-huh.
Because Alex and I have very radically different eating time
Mm-hmm.
habits or schedules.
Mhm.
So
So you're gonna
yeah,
bring that
try to
together.
bring it together.
All right. I like that. Chelsea, how about you? Have you always made New Year's resolutions, or is this maybe
Um,
the year that you're going to or not going to?
I don't really make New Year's resolutions, but I would say I guess the most resolutions that you could say that I make don't necessarily involve working out, because I feel like I do that regularly and that's one of the jobs that I do. So that's not necessarily something that I have to remind myself to do, because I already have that in my schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that more so my New Year's resolutions maybe revolve around work. So like with real estate, I try to create, a plan for the year, whether it be with like social media or how I'm going to do my marketing, and how I'm going to like stick with it. And then, try to stick with it as best as I can, like
Yeah.
doing pop buys. Like I try to plan all of that out in ideally in the month of December, but
Mhm.
this year's been a little crazy. So it'll probably be planned out, like halfway through January and then for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, good. So yours is more focused on business rather than personal, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, cause like I said, with working out, I already, um, have that in place. I mean, I would say I eat fairly healthy and me and Andrew typically sit down and have dinner together if if he's not working. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's something that we normally already kind of do.
Mm-hmm. So, well, I'm going to tell on myself here because I forgot to introduce my lovely co-host at the very beginning. I'm very
We're in a
discombobulated.
new space. So
We're in a new space. This is all like, and as I said, this is very ad hoc. So I am going to go back and we're going to go rewind, and I'm going to introduce my lovely co-hosts who are helping bust that myth that mothers-in-law aren't monsters-in-law. And to the right of me is Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm married to Beth's oldest son, Alex.
Because usually you're to the left of
I
me.
am usually,
Now,
yeah. See,
it's
everything
just
is
like
topsy turvy
yeah.
today.
So we're just kicking everything off new for 2025. So and then to the left of me is Chelsea.
I am Chelsea and I'm married to Beth's middle son, Andrew. And I'm actually happy to be on this side because this is my good side.
Is
So
that your good side? Do you want to
Kelly's
stay on
been
that?
stealing my good side for the whole year.
Well,
So I'll stay on this side.
I think for anybody who's watching
Mhm.
the YouTube
Right.
video, we're sitting on a couch,
Right.
sort of, and we've got little coffee tables,
That's
and
right.
we're sort of
For our
like,
drinks, which is ginger ale. We're
yeah,
drinking ginger ale. We'll get
but
to the hard stuff later. I don't know. Maybe we should start with the hard stuff.
we might should have today. Um, But yeah, so this is it's not the permanent situation
No.
for recording these pods,
Mhm.
but I think in the meanwhile it's kind of just it's kind of fun and different to be in a news space. I think
Yeah.
it's in a way I feel a little bit more relaxed
Uh-huh.
maybe than I usually am
Uh-huh.
before we start a podcast,
Well, that's good.
um but it is definitely odd to be on the opposite side than I
It
usually am.
is, yes. Well, everything, yes. So I completely forgot to introduce my co-host. So now that we have that done, so going back to New Year's resolutions because I never have made them, but a couple of years ago I discovered that people were investing in a word for the year. So you
Oh.
had a theme
Mhm.
word, and I do like that. So my word for this year is thrive. So thrive in 2025 because it
It's
ri- it,
clever.
it rhymes, and I really do think we have like so many really cool and new things going on
Mhm.
in our lives, both personally and professionally. That I really think that thrive is just really a great,
Yes, it's
yeah,
a good
it's a
word.
great word. So I really like that.
Hmm.
I guess tradition. I,
Mhm.
I don't exactly know who started it or when, but I started incorporating it about 5 years ago and that was from Gretchen Rubin's podcast. So she has a really great podcast out there, and it was I had tuned in to one of her podcasts that was wrapping up the year,
Hmm.
and she was the one that I first heard had a word for the year, and I was
Yeah.
like, "That's really a great idea."
It is a great idea because
I love
it's
that.
not it's a general idea and not so specific that it feels
Mhm.
like you have some promise to keep, but then also like if you fail one day or another, you don't feel like you failed your whole
Right?
resolution,
I
right?
Yeah.
know, right?
Which is nice because feeling like a failure 3 days in is
I
not
know,
not a good
right?
feeling, not a good
Yeah.
way to start the year.
And
Yeah.
that and that was my parents' attitude. They're like, "Heck no, we're not gonna do this. We're just gonna break it in
Yeah.
like 3 days." And actually, I mean, when you talk to most people, that seems to be what happens.
Mhm.
It may not be 3 days, but typically most people don't even last a month with their New Year's resolution, which also could just be taking a look at you're just changing a lifestyle habit. And they say
Mhm.
that to change a habit takes 21 days.
Yeah.
And but if you do that, if you put whatever it is that you want to change or like incorporate exercise, I mean whatever it is, it takes 21 days to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah, so maybe it's quitting smoking, maybe you don't want to chew gum anymore. Maybe you need to work on your, your gum health, or there's so many things out there, that we could be thinking about for New Year's resolutions. But anyway, it does take some time.
Yes.
So, but let's take a look at 2024, a year in review. And as I said, I just always so appreciate those shows that do the highlight reels
Mhm.
of the year. I just, from the week between Christmas and New Year's,
Mhm.
we're just inundated with them. And then Time Magazine always puts out, a year in the review. People Magazine usually does. I mean, those magazines out there,
Yeah.
they're still in existence. They always focus on that. So I'm just going to kick it off on some topics, some highlights of 2024. So Kelly, what comes to mind when you think of 2024?
Um, well, the Olympics, certainly, that was a big part of
Yeah,
the summer. I really enjoyed that. I know
hmm
we did a podcast about it.
we did.
But that was I looked forward to it, and I was excited to get into it when that was going on. So that was really fun. Um, I don't necessarily want to talk about this, but obviously in America we had an election. That's always
hmm
a big thing when it's an election year.
hmm
So yeah, those couple of things really stick out the most. Also, I don't want to steal the thunder from the list that we've got here, but the whole Taylor Swift, Travis Kelsey thing, I thought
Yes.
was one of the funniest things ever. I'm not a fan of either of those people, but
No.
but I just thought the fervor that the country has for this little relationship between these two famous people was
I
really
know.
hilarious,
I
and
know.
it's kind of
I know.
continued into, you know,
Yes. Well, we can talk about Swift Mania because I
yeah,
do believe she just wrapped up her Eras tour. I think
She did.
she had her last
yeah.
one. What
It was
country
in
was it in?
Canada.
Oh, okay,
I think British Columbia. No, Vancouver.
Vancouver.
I think
Oh,
it
was
was
it
in
in Vancouver?
I think
Yeah.
it might have been in
Vancouver's in
Vancouver.
BC.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. I know. I know. I'm just like as I said, I'm very discombobulated. So uh geography, I need always a little help with that. So she did wrap up her Eras tour, and that was going on for like a year and a half.
It was a long tour. It did seem like it just
She
was never ending.
she kicked off in May of 2023, I think.
Yeah.
I want to say that, and then
I
just
think it was the first tour to hit like
Oh, yeah,
$1 billion.
I know
yeah.
Hmm.
it's insane.
Yeah.
And then she did the documentary that came out while she was still on tour.
hmm
So, I mean, she
Hmm.
really capitalized, like, she really made that tour
hmm
worth its while. Like,
Yeah.
'cause I know touring is not an easy thing for musicians to do, especially that
Hmm.
long of a tour.
Right.
And then you add all these complicated aspects to it, like filming a documentary. And,
hmm
there were a lot of problems too, weren't there? Lots of canceled shows in Europe. And,
There were a few canceled. I think it was in like South America because the heat and it got
well, that's right.
like some girl died because of like the
Oh,
heat
that's right.
exhaustion.
Yeah.
Right. They did have to cancel
There
that.
might have been a few in
hmm
Europe. But yeah, I think she
hmm
wrapped it up like maybe like 3 or 4 days before her 35th birthday. Her birthday's on December 13th.
Oh, December 13th. Okay.
Which is why her favorite number is 13, I think.
Oh,
So
really?
mhm.
Okay.
Clever.
Well, yeah. Well, so now we're America won't know what to do without Swift
Without,
Mania,
yeah.
and then during all of this, then she started her romance with Travis Kelsey. But it really came in 2024. It came to light that perhaps it was a staged romance. So that was the big buzz that some sort of document had been leaked that they were only going to date from this date to
No,
this date,
that's so silly. I
then
don't
the
think that's
breakup. I don't. I
staged.
No, I don't think it's staged either.
But there have been like I think there were a few, well, I don't know a few, but a bunch of people are saying that the Chiefs, it's like they get all of these uh I don't know a lot about football. I don't know what to call it, but like
Mhm.
the refs kind of like favor like side
Oh,
for the
Oh,
Chiefs, if that
uh-huh.
makes sense,
yeah.
over like whatever team.
Right,
Because it seems like all of the calls are not, you know,
Yeah. They're
don't
in
have to do with
favor.
the Chiefs, yeah, and they favor them. So
right.
they're
But
everyone's saying because it's because Travis Kelsey's dating Taylor Swift and
oh,
she
Oh, of
brings so much
course.
money to the NFL, so we have to have the Chiefs
Of
win
course.
every
yeah.
time.
Well, I mean, it's not a wild speculation to kind of ponder because honestly, like the viewership of NFL of Chiefs games and just of the NFL in general went up in a huge way
Yeah.
amongst
Right.
demographics that may not have been necessarily that interested in football, just
Right.
Yeah.
interested in seeing
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Swift in the stands,
I mean,
maybe.
Right.
that's
So
true.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the girls that were going to those particular games were always bummed when she didn't show up.
yeah. Or
So,
even just watching them on TV, it was, the camera would cut to
yeah.
their box or whatever,
Uh-huh.
and she would be there. And there would
Right.
inevitably be some, of her famous friends with her. And
Right.
so,
Yes. And then
I
Yeah.
can certainly see why people would be turned on to see that.
and everybody was always curious as to what outfit she was going
Yeah.
to wear to the game.
And
And
her
yes.
bright
I
red
know.
lipstick.
Well,
Uh-huh.
it always seemed like her outfits were so relatable too, because she'd be wearing like a pair of like black studded jeans, and you're like, oh, that's
Mhm.
really cute. Like,
Yeah.
let me go and see how much this is. And then like her entire outfit would, of course, be like $10,000. Like
Right.
the jeans alone were
Right.
like 2,000, and you're like,
Mm.
you're like,
Right.
let me find a pair that's maybe 150.
Yeah.
Well,
I can't imagine she's a budget shopper.
no, I don't think so.
Well, I mean, she
have to
doesn't
be.
need to be. My God,
I know,
I
right?
don't think I would be a budget
I know.
shopper either.
But supposedly, I did see a headline that now that the Eras tour is over, she just wants to settle down in Kansas City with and have a normal life with Travis Kelsey.
Oh.
So I don't know if that means that wedding bells are looming. I don't
Mm.
know. It was just a headline that I
She'll be
read.
back. I mean, she'll definitely be back, but I think she always does this where I feel like she goes through her tours and then I mean, my gosh, she was on this tour for how long? Like, she's probably
Mm-hmm.
going to take a good, like, several years
Mm-hmm.
off. And in those years, probably create her next album.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the meantime, like you said, get married.
Mm-hmm.
If they do,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe she will
Yeah,
get
maybe.
pregnant, have kids.
We don't know, but that was a headline that I saw.
Yeah.
She's going to have a normal life in Kansas City with the new mansion that Travis purchased, I guess,
Okay.
since they've been dating. So, although I also read too
Kansas
that
City.
it was recently broken into his,
Mm.
his mansion, which I thought was interesting as well. But and he has a podcast. He and his brother have a podcast,
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
and
What's it called? Their
oh
podcast?
gosh,
I actually don't know. I've never
you
listened
have to
to it.
Google
It's
it.
actually it's funny. I've listened to it.
Hmm.
They just have like good banter back and forth, and then
They do.
they've had Kylie Kelsey. So,
Hmm.
his brother's wife,
Jason.
Jason, she's been on it, and she's hilarious.
Hmm.
But what's funny to me is that I feel like Kylie is so well. I don't. I obviously don't know either of them.
Is it called
personally.
New Heights?
New
New
Heights.
Heights.
That's right.
But I feel like Kylie is so different from Taylor.
Uh-huh.
Just not, I don't know personality wise, but
Mhm.
in the way that they dress.
Uh-huh.
Because she'll show up to the games and she's like, Kylie's almost like one of the boys where it's like she shows up in like the jersey and like a pair of jeans.
Mhm.
And then you see Taylor and her like decked out,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
girly dress.
Yeah. Well, supposedly Kylie just launched a podcast of her own.
She did, and it got
It's
more
called
views than Joe Rogan's.
Swearing Moms is what it's
Oh.
called, I believe.
I think her first episode, she talked about her
Mm-hmm.
political views and how she held back on that she was like so far left or something like that on her
Uh-huh.
political views.
Uh-huh.
Like she didn't talk about it before, the election. And then I think I guess because her family is very not left.
Oh, okay. So they're very conservative and
Yeah.
she's not.
Odd
I
man
haven't
out
listened
in
to it though.
family.
So I mean, I can't really
No, I
say
haven't
more than that.
haven't listened to it either. I just know that she released or launched a podcast of her own. So and the title is called Swearing Mom. So I don't know if she swears, obviously,
I think probably.
right?
Yeah. I'm going to say yes
I
on
think
that one.
so. But yes, but you're right because she did unseat Joe Rogan for the top
Yeah.
spot.
Which was kind of wild.
Yeah,
It is wild.
That says a lot.
It does.
It really.
I wonder if it'll be sustainable though.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. People are pretty interested in her just because she's kind of she's like in the background, I feel like. So for her to come,
Mm-hmm.
to the
Get
front,
everything
but we'll see.
juicy gossip tidbits
Yeah,
and
Maybe.
things.
Well, and
Yeah.
also, I mean, Taylor Swift could be her new sister-in-law. So,
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on from Swift mania, one of the things, and this actually is a sadder note from 2024, and that was Kate Middleton and King Charles were both diagnosed with cancer at the beginning of 2024. So I know there was just a big shakeup in the royal family because both had to pull back on their royal duties, and then with Harry and Meghan in California, I mean the mantle really has fallen to Prince William to carry
Yeah.
on. And and he's the son and the husband, so that had to have been very, very trying. But and it still hasn't been. So I do think that this is interesting, and I do believe that privacy is so important. But we have no idea what type of cancer King Charles has or
Mm-hmm.
Kate Middleton.
Mhm.
We just know that they
Or
both.
like how aggressive it
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
that's right. Or how aggressive it is, or any of that. So
I think she finished up her treatment, and then King Charles is still going through his treatment.
How old
mhm.
is King Charles?
He's like 70. Gosh, I want to say
Yeah.
he's like 75. He's about 12 years older than I am. I'm
70,
66.
he's 76.
Oh,
76.
okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I
Yeah.
thought he was.
Yeah. I was just trying to think because Princess Diana
I will say, looking at
was
the
my
photos
age.
of Kate Middleton, it is kind of crazy how chemo and going through. I mean, obviously that's very hard on your body, but
It
it's just
is. It
like you
is.
definitely. I mean, you just see it in the
Mhm,
pictures. You know.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, I still think she looks amazing, but yes, it does take such a
Yeah.
toll on your body. It
And
really
how old
does.
is she? Because she's like
She's like
40,
41, I think.
Yeah.
40.
Hmm.
I was gonna say like 43, but yeah, that seems.
Well, roughly. I'm just trying to think because Prince William is
So
like,
she's super young.
She's 42.
yeah,
42.
that's
Meet
right.
in the middle.
Yeah. I was just trying
That's
to
so
remember.
young. Yeah.
It's very young.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Diana had her boys around the same time that I had AJ and Andrew and Christian. So I always kind of think of that.
Well, I'm sure
Um,
that they're both receiving the best treatment that they can. So
Oh, for sure.
oh,
that's good.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, cancer is
Yeah.
cancer, and
It doesn't matter who you are.
it doesn't matter who you are. It's just such an insidious disease. And my heart has truly gone out to everyone.
Yeah.
And Kate and William have such young children too, so that's also very challenging. So
Yeah.
yes, so not only are you in the public eye in a way that we would never understand because they're royals, they have their royal duties, and
Mhm.
Have
they
Megan
have
and Harry like reached out to them or gone back and helped, or they just
no, no,
really
no. There's still the rift. There's still a definite rift between Harry
did
and
they try
Meghan,
to,
and
do you think, and they just wouldn't let them, or
not that I'm aware of. I mean, or not that the public is aware of. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
who
who
knows
knows
what's
what?
going on
behind the
Right.
scenes?
behind the scenes? But I think the rift
Yeah.
is
Because I feel like if anything, this is the one thing that's gonna bring you back
uh-huh.
together is
Yeah.
like, okay,
So, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
I do know that Harry um made solo trip. I remember seeing in the tabloids at the grocery store like that Harry had made a trip back to visit his father and
Mhm.
things like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean we don't really ever
No,
know
we don't know.
what kind of communication is going on
No.
behind the scenes there.
yeah,
So
No, but Kate is somewhat back to her royal duties, albeit not full force.
yeah.
And I think that she's being very wise and sober in what she can and can't handle at this point.
yeah,
I think she has prioritized her health, so good for you, and B, her family, and then C, then her royal duties. And I think that that's
yeah,
definitely what she should be doing.
Right.
Definitely. So,
Yeah,
but yeah.
well, and honestly, I think the headline that I saw the other day at the checkout line was something about since King Charles is still going through his treatment,
Mm-hmm.
Kate is feeling the pressure of maybe
Mm-hmm.
having to take on role as queen sooner than they even
Right.
ever expected.
mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's an
What would
indication
happen
that King
if,
Charles isn't doing.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like, heaven forbid this happens, but I'm not like super familiar with like how this would work, but I mean, I guess I'm assuming that Prince William, in the event that something happened to Kate and he became king, like he would be able to remarry because his dad did. So, right?
Um,
Oh, if Kate passed away,
Yeah.
is that
yeah,
what you're asking? That he would be able to remarry?
certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like if he was the king, I'm
yeah.
assuming, yeah, because his dad did
Mhm.
to,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any reason why he wouldn't be able to.
Not saying, I mean, obviously this would be like way,
Right.
this is like the
Yeah.
furthest thing from anyone's thoughts.
Right.
Right,
I know
especially
I'm
it
since
just,
she's
is.
since
I'm more
she's got it
so,
covered in.
I'm just more
He's
so
doing well.
curious as to like how that works
Yeah.
in the
Mm-hmm.
family, but I mean, I guess his dad did, so
Well, I
Yeah.
think even nowadays too,
like what their rules are on that, you know what I
I
mean?
think nowadays it's especially ever since the abdication all those years ago, I think the royal
Mm-hmm.
family has loosened a bit on,
On
because
that, yeah.
they let Charles get a divorce from Diana,
Right.
Yeah.
you know.
That was the first big thing.
That was
Yeah.
the real big change because I don't think that back a long time ago would have ever.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's not totally true because didn't Henry VIII get married and divorced several times and that
Quite a few times.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so yes,
so
but then he had to.
maybe
Then he created a new church.
changing the rules to well he just
Anyways,
got
He changed
those are my morbid thoughts
from
for
being a
today.
being
yeah
a Catholic to a Protestant. It's like,
yeah
okay, let's okay, boys, we have to figure out how
he
to.
changed the religion of your
Uh-huh.
nation just because he wanted
Yes,
to get a divorce
that's right. He wanted to
Yeah.
get divorced, but then he was also. I mean,
and remarried.
yeah, we can look at it that he wanted to have an heir,
Well, we
because
wish Kate Middleton all the health in the world.
we do. We really
Yes,
we
and
do.
that she fully recovers.
We do. Yes,
And King
because
Charles.
yes, and as far as changing the royal protocol, I mean, I will just go back to when Princess Diana married Charles. I mean,
Hmm.
she had to be a virgin. I mean, they still had very strict
Yeah,
rules. So there's no wonder that Diana was 19 and Charles was like what, 30 or
I
how
don't
I
know
can't
how old he
remember how
was.
many years older he was, but maybe even older than that. But
Yeah.
they have loosened up things even since then, and
Yeah.
that was way back in 1981, I believe, when they got married.
Yeah,
So yeah, and I do think that their divorce, I don't think, and I do remember at the time many people were just saying, Diana, just go off and just have a happy life and let Charles do what he wants to. You do what you want to, just like all the royals had been doing for centuries.
hmm
But she didn't want to.
yeah.
She really pushed that divorce, and so there again, push back the boundaries. So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. And then Charles then was allowed to marry the love of his life, Camilla.
Yeah.
So, but yes, but it's been a challenging year for them, and my
Hmm.
heart does go out to both King Charles and um,
Yeah.
Kate Middleton,
Yeah.
who is the Princess of Wales now. So very challenging year. So I hope they have a better year in 2025.
I do too.
Yeah. And then now we can go from a sadder topic to a lighter topic. So we can talk about TV, and we have a TV expert over here
Oh, I don't know about expert.
to the right of me. Well, actually, I think we all really like our TV shows.
Yeah.
We really do. But one thing is for sure, and that is Taylor Sheridan
Yeah.
has quite the universe when it comes to TV shows and crafting very well done. I mean, they're well written, they're well acted, the casting's amazing, and then they're typically filmed on location, and then they have these beautiful sweeping locations as
Hmm.
well. So let's talk about Taylor Sheridan a little bit, because it was a little bit challenging for him too, because Yellowstone got put on hold
Yeah.
for a long time, for
Yeah.
about
It
a
really kind of
year.
sucked the air out of the tires, didn't it?
Uh-huh.
Because I mean, it was really going gangbusters. I think, being the number one show on television,
Hmm.
so many million viewers, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
It was as if like the Taylor Sheridan, star was on it, was headed into the stratosphere or whatever. And then it just kind of all of a sudden fell flat a little bit, I
Hmm.
think, with the
It did.
stoppage of that show. And, the strike was happening during that time too. And so, yeah, it feels like they lost a lot of momentum, which is kind of amazing when you consider how he regained it
I
so
know.
quickly in 2024. So simultaneously, the guy had the end of Yellowstone, Lioness, this new show, Landman, and then wrapping up that Sylvester Stallone show.
Oh, is he wrapping that up? Tulsa King?
Yeah, I think the Tulsa King season was ending just as like Landman was starting. So there
Okay.
was things were ending while things were beginning, but there was just enough overlap where I think there was a Sunday night a few weeks ago where it was the Yellowstone finale, the Lioness finale, and then the Landman premiere. Like it
Uh-huh.
was just like this synergy of,
Uh-huh.
and apparently Landman is one of the top watch shows
Mhm.
right now. And
Mhm.
so, Paramount Plus is and
Mhm.
Paramount, and Paramount with Showtime, and
Mhm.
there's like 3 of them now. It's hard to keep track,
Right.
but they're dominated by Taylor Sheridan shows,
I
and it's
know.
amazing.
I know. Yeah, so what do you think about Taylor Sheridan's TV shows, Chelsea? Do you have a
I have
favorite?
no thoughts on
You have no
this.
thoughts
No thoughts.
I
on
mean,
Taylor?
I did want to watch Landman. I just haven't had the time to. Andrew watched it and he liked it. We were gonna watch it together and then I just got busy. So I think I'm maybe like 15 minutes into the first episode, so I can't even really say
Mhm.
Mhm.
that I've like fully started it. But I probably will watch that. Yellowstone, I liked it for the first like 2.5 seasons, and then I just thought it was like way overdone, and
Mhm.
I stopped watching it after that. So I couldn't really tell you
Mhm.
um anything more on that. And then yeah, I haven't watched Tulsa King or what was the other one that you mentioned?
Lioness.
Lioness.
Lioness. Yeah, I haven't seen either of those. Um, I feel like his uh genre seems more like that like Western feel. Is that correct? I mean, or is
Not
that just
totally.
Yellowstone?
It's
I
just
don't know.
Yellowstone, really. I mean, I think Landman
Landman seems
has a sense of that just because it takes place in West Texas,
okay.
but it's not cowboy. It's not as cowboy
Okay.
centric
Yeah.
as Yellowstone.
No.
So, and Tulsa
No.
King is completely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tulsa King is about an ex-mob.
mob guy who
Uh-huh.
he kind of gets his hand slapped and sent to go
Oh.
run their operations in Tulsa.
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
So and that's the Sylvester
Yeah.
Stallone character.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not
episodes. And then Lioness is a spy thriller.
Yeah, it's a spy
Mhm.
show.
Mhm. Nicole Kidman is in
mm,
that, and
I'd probably like
Zoe
Lioness. I'm
Saldana.
not like huge on like mob TV series or movies in general.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I would like Tulsa King and then like but I think maybe Landman and The Lioness I would probably like. So
Mhm.
Lioness is good. It's very
Mhm.
action packed.
It is.
It's kind of a crazy show. There's a lot that's going on all
Mhm.
the time.
Mhm.
yeah.
And Landman is just great, honestly, because Billy Bob Thornton cannot be
Oh.
beat. That guy is just an amazing actor and is just fantastic in this role.
Yeah.
I don't know if Taylor Sheridan had him in mind when he was writing it or not,
Mhm.
but he just totally embodies this
Yeah.
character in a way that you're like, he was made to play this
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
It's pretty incredible. It's a really good
Yeah.
show.
It's an
I'm interested to watch that one. So I definitely will.
it's an excellent show, and I thought the same thing
Hmm.
or wondered the same thing. Did Taylor Sheridan write that role specifically for Billy Bob Thornton because he is so good in it?
Yeah.
But I will say, and I've had this conversation with you, the supporting cast is also amazing.
Hmm.
Everyone is perfectly cast in their role, and they truly help, bring Billy Bob up to, up to new heights. But he is just, I mean, tailor made for that role, and he is killing it. So far 6 episodes have been released, and
Hmm.
I mean, it just keeps getting better and better, and the writing is just spot on. So Taylor Sheridan must thrive on chaos because there was a lot going on, I'm sure, when he was developing the show
Hmm.
and developing these roles. But he's done an
Hmm.
excellent job.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Great,
the
great
casting
writer.
is amazing for this particular show,
Hmm.
but it's also really amazing for Lioness too, because you've got Zoe Saldana, and
Yes,
Nicole
Nicole
Kidman,
Kidman.
Morgan Freeman. Like it's
Right.
kind of an amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Michael Kelly is his name. You'd recognize him. But anyway, yeah, I was a little bit worried, because we had the whole Yellowstone thing going on and there was all
Hmm.
the speculation of all the new shows that he was coming out with.
Hmm.
And I kind of got a little bit worried as those shows maybe weren't as popular and then we saw some kind of fall away, like there was speculation of that 4 Sixes show
I
that
know that never came to
hasn't
fruition.
materialized.
Yeah, there was
Um
supposed to be. Well, I'm interrupting you, but like last year, they were talking about like Matthew McConaughey was going to be in like 1944, which picked up Yellowstone, a pre, uh,
right.
20 something Yellowstone. So, but it had the Dutton family in, but I don't think that that's come to fruition.
I think that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, and then 666 hasn't come to fruition. But then Landman came on the scene,
Yeah.
or the Four Sixes. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a Yellowstone spinoff show that's coming called The Madison, and then Michelle Pfeiffer's in that actually.
Oh,
And then
okay.
season 2 of 1923 is premiering in
Yes.
February.
I'm very excited
So
about that because I thoroughly enjoyed that show when it came
Mm.
out last year
I'm
in
glad that there's a second
2023.
season
Me
because it
too.
really left us
It
on
was
a
a
cliffhanger.
cliffhanger,
Yeah,
right?
I was
I
gonna.
know.
If
Yeah.
there wasn't resolution there, I was gonna be pretty disappointed. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that they'll be back with that.
hmm Well, it's been interesting to see how
Mhm.
so many TV shows are being written or um, produced by Taylor Sheridan. I don't know if he's specifically writing every single. I can't imagine that he's writing every single
You'd be
one.
surprised.
Is he?
I think he's written every single episode of Lioness, every single episode of Landman.
Well, he's
I know
doing
he has a co-creator for Landman, I think, but he is mostly writing.
he's doing a great job.
That's
Great job.
incredible.
I've loved all of them. So
Oh, this guy's imagination is just
yeah.
mind-boggling.
So, well, talking about, or still talking about TV shows. So, I know this is a favorite of yours, Chelsea. So, Dancing with the Stars. So, because
Mhm.
that show's been on for how many years?
I think this was like maybe like the 33rd season or
Holy
something.
I
buckets,
know.
really?
It's been
It's
on for a
it's been on
while.
for a long,
Do
long
they do 2
time.
seasons a year?
No, I think they just do one season a year to my knowledge.
Wow,
Maybe
okay.
2 seasons. I'm not 100% sure on that, but
Mhm.
no, well, this season particularly like got like a huge like reboost almost with kind of coincided with the Olympics because they brought on two like really popular Olympic stars, if you want to call them, Alona Mar, who was on the women's rugby team, and then
Mhm.
Stephen. I'm not even going to attempt to say his last name because I know I'll totally butcher it, but he was on the men's gymnastics
Oh,
team.
okay, yeah.
So they brought both of them on, and then just like a few other bigger stars that I think people were interested in watching. And they brought in a few like Gen Z pros, which really kind of amped it up on like the social media. I think
Oh.
one of the stars that they brought on was just the Bachelorette, Jen Tran. And so it just became like a whole social media phenomenon, which was interesting this year because I mean, I've watched Dancing with the Stars before, but this year, like everyone was watching it from, I mean, people that were in college all the way up to, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
way older. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, I would imagine that capitalizing on everybody's high from the Olympics, it was,
mhm.
a good
Yeah.
move for them, right? And then also, like you said, bringing in a younger group of professionals kind of freshens everything up a bit, right? Like
Yeah,
I would
Mhm.
for
imagine
sure.
that would
Well,
capture the attention of younger people, especially.
they one of the pros that they brought on last season, Riley Arnold, like she had a big thing last season. She was partnered with Harry Jowsey, or I think that's how you pronounce his last name, but he's got a podcast and he also has been on a few like reality shows, but he's basically known in the social media world as a quote unquote um I guess I can say this on a podcast, but fuckboy.
Oh,
Oh,
And
playa.
oh my
a
goodness.
player.
Playa.
And him and Riley were paired together, which is interesting because there was like speculation, like, are they dating? But that she's Mormon, like she's
Mm.
from Utah and her whole family's Mormon. And I mean, I don't think, and she's very young, like he's like 27 and she had just turned 18
Oh my
last
goodness.
season. So I think she's 19 this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
But her older sister was actually on Dancing with the Stars as well, Lindsay Arnold. So their whole family pretty much
Wow.
danced. I think her mom and dad maybe
Okay.
danced too. But when they brought her on, she really kind of turned it around for Dancing with the Stars, and then especially this year. And then they brought another pro on, Ezra Sosa, I think his name is, and he's maybe like a couple years older than Riley, but he became big on like TikTok and really like everyone was interested to see his
Mhm.
social media content.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then Alona Mar, obviously, like
Yeah.
she had a TikTok for pretty much everything that they did.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So
So I think it sounds like the trend is that they're turning more towards like influencers and social media stars and reality show
um
stars as well as just like
yeah, reality.
celebrities. I
I
think
feel like that's kind of what they typically do anyways, because I feel like Dancing with the Stars, to me at least, their stars sometimes they do bring on like Alfonso from, my gosh, was he on Family Matters or what? Not Family Matters.
Are you talking about the dad from Family Matters?
No, not but he's a host of Dancing with the Stars now.
Okay.
And he was also a star. Like he was a really big star that came on. And some of the stars that they do bring on are like legitimate, like
Mhm.
were on TV shows.
Right.
But I do feel like they tend to typically veer more towards like the reality or like a football player, a professional.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because, let's face it, like if they're trying to get Taylor Swift, that's never going to happen.
Right.
And also, I think the logistics of that would just never work because
Kind
it's
of a
like,
it's always been
know.
kind of a mid star,
Exactly.
mid tier
Right.
Yeah.
celebrity, kind of
Known, but not perhaps
yeah,
well known.
Yeah.
or at one like
Right.
they were on a classic show that was
Right.
super huge
Exactly.
at one point, but
Right.
now is 25 years
Like
later.
a 90s
Right.
sitcom show that,
Uh,
but yeah.
so they did have one of the contestants was from The Bachelor or The Bachelorette.
So they had two. So they had Jen Tran, who was the Bachelorette this past season of The Bachelorette, and she
Okay.
actually literally wrapped up her Men Tell All episode and then basically was like bawling on the stage of that. 30 minutes later was getting on a plane
Oh
to go
wow.
meet her partner Sasha Farber, which now they're dating.
Oh wow.
Supposedly they haven't like officially announced it, but she's like very clearly living with him, and
Mhm.
they do like everything together. So we're pretty sure that
Yeah.
they're dating, which was interesting. And then the other Bachelor contestant, he was the Bachelor this season, I want to say before Jen, or maybe 2 seasons before. Joey, my God, what, I don't know what his last name is, but he won. He won the Mirror Ball.
Oh,
Dancing with the
okay.
Stars. Yeah.
Okay.
So he was shockingly really good.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, I think, very surprised by how much of a natural
Really?
like
Mhm.
dance talent he had.
Mhm.
So yeah, he ended up winning.
Well, there you go. Well, so we can just naturally segue into the next 2024 phenomenon, and that is the Golden Bachelorette. And there was another TV show that just came out. It's called The Later Daters.
Mm.
So the baby boomers are being zeroed in on now for reality shows and
About dating.
about dating. Which is, I mean, I'm 66 and I'm out there dating, so I'm like, you go. I mean, I think it's great.
Mhm.
So the Golden Bachelor, I don't know if you caught any of the segments, but it,
I
it was
didn't.
it was actually pretty well done. I think that Joan was the main character, the Golden Bachelorette, and she had long blonde hair, so I think she fit the part very well.
Yeah.
And I think there were 22 men that came on, but
Mm.
I didn't watch like every single episode,
Mhm.
but I did watch several, and then also read a lot of recaps over on YouTube.
Yeah.
And everybody's takeaway was how well the men all got along.
Oh yeah.
So that was a big thing. There was
Bringing a maturity to
right. There was
the
no
thing.
cat fighting. There was
Yeah.
no. I mean,
Well, I feel like the men in general, like typically when it's like the Bachelorette season,
Mhm. They get along.
typically the men seem to get along more than obviously the women, because women can be a little
Mm-hmm.
catty.
Also, don't you think that
But
the producers probably try to get the women to fight a
oh,
bit more
for
than they
sure.
normally would?
Yeah.
So,
For
and just
sure.
to see guys doing that would be weird, you
I
know?
know, right?
I mean, I think guys, it's more of like, the like, okay, we'll just like fight or something,
Well, yeah, like
probably. But
there's probably like a sort of manly bro-ness that they want to
yeah,
portray, like, who's the, more manly and mature.
Right.
I think being immature looks less attractive on
Right.
men than it does women in that
I was
situation.
gonna say though, so
Mhm.
I read recently a headline that stated the last Golden Bachelor that he has cancer or something. Did you see
Yes.
that?
Yes, I did
Oh,
read that. So he when that show came out, he did pick someone and they actually got married. They got married on TV. I mean, the Golden
Mhm.
Bachelor, I mean, they funded everything.
Yeah.
mhm.
They actually got married and then they got divorced 4 months later.
Oh wow.
Hmm. So then now it has come out that he had cancer, and supposedly that was one of the reasons that
They
they
broke
they,
up.
they broke up.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's too bad.
I
Wow.
know, right?
Interesting.
Yep. So supposedly that was it. But the Golden Bachelorette. So Joan. So she found her guy, and they're engaged.
Okay.
So we'll see.
And
We'll see
still
what
together.
happens. Yeah, they're still together right now. So
Are they going to have the wedding on TV?
no, they said that they weren't going to do that, and they were happy to extend their engagement for as long as need be. But he lives in Kansas, and I think she lives in D.C. I want to say, but they just are decided to rent an apartment in New York, so then they would
Mhm.
have like
Oh,
a
that's
neutral space.
What's
Mhm.
interesting to me, because I feel like, well, so Joey that won the Dancing with the Stars this season, um, he's engaged to a girl named Kelsey Anderson, and they're still together,
Mhm.
and I think that they'll do well together. Like they seem very genuine.
Mhm.
Jen Tran, who was also on Dancing with the Stars, and was the Bachelorette
Mhm.
this past season, she did not meet anyone from her season, obviously,
Oh,
because she's now supposedly dating her Dancing with the Stars
right.
Uh-huh.
pro.
Uh-huh.
But then what's interesting to me is like I feel like on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, I mean, some of them definitely do work out for sure because you
Mhm.
see the
Mhm.
stories of them working out, but it
Mhm.
is such a short time to
It
then at the
is.
very end be like, let's get
I
engaged.
know.
Yeah.
Whereas I almost feel like if it was like, oh, like let's continue dating,
Mhm.
like you're the
Yeah.
person that I would
Mhm.
like to continue dating,
Right?
seems a little bit more reasonable than after
Yes.
like 6 weeks, be
I
like,
Yeah.
know.
oh, we're
Get
getting
married.
married.
Well, plus they're in such a bubble. I mean, when it's being
Yeah,
filmed, they can't,
exactly.
Mm.
they can't. They have to stay in the mansion, or the
Yeah.
bachelor, the bachelorette has, they're sequestered in their house, and then they have all these dates, and
Yeah.
so it's just all about the dating experience, and but still in that very closed environment and closed off from
Mhm.
the rest of the world, and it's really how you interact day to day. I mean,
Yeah.
how your family is going to meld with yours, and it's much
Mhm.
different. I mean, because I am out there. I mean, I'm 66 and out there dating. It's much different because you're not looking to create a kingdom together. I mean, that's how. I mean, when I was 25 and I got married, we were, Mac went out to slay the dragons, and I kept the castle, and we were building our family and all of that. But and now things are different. So but it's still, I want that person to like get along with my family,
Right.
meld in with your family. But it's more like
Right.
what your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
You're not building something. It's just much different. And I do, so the little snippets that I have seen of Joan and her fiance, his name is Chalk, not Chuck, but
Yeah.
Chalk.
Interesting.
Talk.
Like
Chalk.
CHO.
It's Chock.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
Chuck full of nuts,
anyway,
is he?
but they've actually spoken to that things
Mhm.
are much different that this
Yeah.
time around, and
Yeah.
their needs are much different, and it's much more about them and what they want, even
Mhm.
though, as I said,
Yeah.
you still want your families to be part
Yeah.
of it, but it's a different thing.
I
Yeah.
almost feel like it's just like, because I mean, I don't know, they might feel this way, but it's almost like the pressure just from being on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette or the Golden
Uh-huh.
Bachelorette that they feel that pressure to be like, oh,
Yeah.
we have to get engaged. When in reality, they probably would just be like, hey, I really like you.
Yeah.
You're the person that I like the best. Why don't
Right.
we continue to hang out
Right.
after this and we'll see where it goes?
Right. But I do think the show puts that pressure on
Yeah,
them,
it for sure
and they
does.
and they have come out and said that
Yeah.
that
Because also, don't they get paid?
they
Doesn't
get
the
paid
yeah,
more money if
if
Yeah.
they actually come
if they
away with an
actually,
engaged?
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So there's your incentive
Well, and
right
then it's
there.
like, I think they pay for the ring and,
Mhm. They
then
do.
they're like, oh, we'll pay for your
They do.
wedding if it's
Yes. Right.
televised.
Yes. And
And
then there's a contract. So
yeah,
you have to still be like together. I mean, if you have the engagement ring, you still
Yeah.
have to be together.
X amount of months or
Right.
whatever after.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are all these stipulations
yeah,
Which I
required.
mean, honestly, like if you're gonna go on this show,
Hmm.
any of the I've never watched them except for that one premiere of the Bachelor,
Right.
Golden Bachelor,
Uh,
because you had been
right.
tagged for that. But it's just kind of an interesting, people. I assume people are going on this show to become a well-known person.
I think
whether
that's what it is.
and
It
also
is.
the payout, right? So
It
then
is.
why
Maybe
do
not
you
the golden
I
one.
even think the golden. So I mean,
Really?
I will say because Joan and Chalk now have their own little Instagram following, and she's getting deals,
yeah.
just like any other
And
influencer
there's
out there. So I'm
yeah.
like,
But do you think that she initially like went into it
I
thinking
personally think
that?
she did.
Really?
She
Yes,
was on the Golden Bachelor. She was a
yes.
contestant on the
She was a
Golden
contestant on
Bachelor.
the Golden Bachelor,
And then
and
they
then she had to go home because
I mean, for sure, the regular Bachelor and Bachelorette, for sure, because I
Mhm.
mean, you've got like 25-year-olds on there. And like, I mean, it's very clear that, they just want a bigger following and,
I
right.
think it's the exact same thing is true for the
I do.
for the boomers doing it,
I do.
honestly, because what does anyone in their 60s actually think that they're going to find the love of their life on a TV show? I
Mhm.
mean, and if they do think that, then there's some disconnect.
yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
I do.
I get
I
the
think so.
desperation of like being in your 60s and like trying to date, but I don't think you need a TV show to come in and help you do that.
I agree.
Oh,
Well, and that's why because I did so Kelly pointed it out. So I did interview for the Golden Bachelor, and and I actually looked at it from a lot of different angles and like, oh gosh, could this be good, for, style at a certain age? I was not really looking at it from my perspective, even though I am truly out there looking for someone just, spend the rest of my life
your
with.
hopes and dreams were not that you would find the love of your life on the Golden
I
Bachelor.
know, but then finally, and I'll never forget. So Jennifer, a friend of mine, she's like, Beth, have you ever watched any of the, Bachelor, Bachelorette shows? I'm like, no. And she's like, okay, this is your homework. She's like, you go home and watch at least one season, which I did. And then I was just like, OMG, this is not for me at
Yeah.
all.
Well,
Not at all.
they
So,
always have
yeah.
to paint a villain, and
Yes.
you never know if you're going
I
to
know.
be the villain.
I know.
And then there's always like the one that's like everyone loves, and then the one that
Mhm.
everyone hates. And then it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so, I mean,
Yeah.
heaven forbid you end up being the villain. And then,
I know.
you know,
But then I also read too on one of the big deal breakers for me was so then I read that you had to go to the mansion. You're sequestered in the mansion. You couldn't have any of your social devices with you. You couldn't
oh,
have your
yeah.
computer. You couldn't have your
Yeah.
phone. You couldn't have. I mean, you really are sequestered from the world, and you had to have roommates. I mean, basically, they're like
Oh,
bunk
yeah.
beds, and I'm like,
Dorm
what the
type
heck?
situation.
I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be 60 because I was 65 at the time. Like, there's no way I'm going to share a room with somebody
Yeah.
and a bathroom with somebody. I'm like, no, that's like totally undoable. So anyway, but so this other show, and we'll wrap this up, and we're going to share some of our favorites from 2024. But the other dating show, they're not sequestered, so I really did like that aspect of it a
Mhm.
little bit better. But they're
The
all
later daters one.
the later daters, right? So they're just basically living their best life.
Mhm.
There's a dating coach that comes and helps them point different things out. It was set in Atlanta,
Mhm.
so I
Oh,
thought that was a little bit
yeah.
interesting for me.
Yeah.
They had people in their 50s, 60s. There might have been one that was even like 71.
Okay.
So it's just more of more
Mhm.
of an organic. I mean, they
Yeah.
obviously set the dates up for them, things like
Sure.
that. But I thought it was
Almost like Millionaire Matchmaker. That's
Sounds a
kind
little
of,
bit more reasonable.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that that's a better setup for
Yeah.
mhm,
romance
for
Yeah.
sure.
than going off to LA and living.
Cat fighting your
I
way
know
through the
living in the
dormitory.
mansion with
Yeah.
roommates and sharing a bathroom. I'm like, no, no, that's not happening. So, okay, well, those are some of the highlights from 2024. So, just tell me maybe if you had like a favorite book, Kelly, maybe a favorite TV show, maybe a favorite song. I actually had a favorite song, and then it was revealed to me that that song came out in like 2018. So, so I had to
Not a
ditch my
highlight of
song. No,
2024.
it's not a highlight of 2024.
I
So,
I definitely have favorite TV shows of 2024.
mhm,
But and I'll just say Landman. These are kind of going currently, so I can't say overall that it's like what I think is the best of 2024.
mhm,
Same with season 2 of Bad Sisters. I think that's another great
Oh, that
2024
is
show.
such a good show.
That is
Did
good.
it first come out in 2024 or the second season came
Second
out?
season is
Okay.
2024.
Did you like the
But it's
first
not
season
finished.
better or the second season?
Well, second season's not finished yet, right?
Oh, it's not?
No.
Because I think
Okay.
I'm caught up on all the episodes. There's like 6 out.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say.
Okay. I just finished up season 1.
I think
loved
both
it.
season 1 and 2 are amazing.
So far, season 2's been great.
Really?
Yeah,
I forgot
really,
about
really
So
like
just
it.
as good
Yeah.
as season. Okay, that's
That's a good
I
one.
think so.
Okay, so Bad Sisters, man.
Yeah, and then I just wanted to bring up this show called Say Nothing, which is it's a really phenomenal show, and it might actually be one of my most favorites of 2024.
Really? I don't think I've heard you talk about this one.
Yeah, I actually just started watching it. But it's a period show
Mm-hmm.
set in 1972, and it's basically stories of members of the Irish Republican Army during the Troubles.
Mm-hmm.
So it focuses on a few of the key members, and just they're telling the stories of like what it was like and what they did, and it's really, really phenomenal. Really well written, really well acted, shot beautifully. It's a really great show. It's on FX.
Say Nothing.
Say Nothing.
Okay. Say Nothing. All right.
Yeah. So I mean, those are some shows. I really loved The Backyard Bird Chronicles by Amy Tan. That's a book I talked about on this podcast when it first came out in earlier in the year. Really, really good book. And then I recently heard about an album. I have a hard time with popular music of today because I prefer older sounding music. And there are people making music today in the style of blues and jazz from the 20s and 30s. And there's one guy in particular, his name is Jaron Paxton. And he just came out with a new record called Things Done Changed. And so yeah, it's a really good album. Yeah.
It's a good
it's
album.
fun.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Chelsea, how about you?
Actually, I had a hard time with TV shows because I feel like I liked a lot of shows in 2023. Not that I didn't like shows in 2024, but it was kind of like there were several that I liked, and then I didn't really like the ending, so I'm like, eh. But Bad Sisters 2, I will say I totally forgot about that one, and I have been watching that, and it's been great. But then Nobody Wants This on Netflix. I really liked that. I thought that was super cute.
Such a good show.
I know I don't necessarily know if this was my favorite, but I know it was one of Andrew's favorites was Shogun. He really liked that one a lot.
Excellent show.
Excellent
show.
Which I think I would have liked it more had I not had to like read subtitles half the time. I'm just not a big subtitle person. But I mean, I did watch. I would say I watched.
Well,
the
wait till you
majority of
get
it.
old, and then you just put subtitles on just so you can hear whatever
what's going on.
Sometimes we do that. I would say my favorite movie of the year was definitely Wicked, which obviously just came out. I really did like that. And I thought that as far as movies that came out in 2024 was one of the better ones. Songs, I would say, I don't even know. I feel like if I had to pick, maybe like Sabrina Carpenter was really big in 2024. Like she had a lot of hit songs but I don't necessarily listen to her that much. I would say I listen to songs that are a little bit older than 2024. And then book series, I'm not 100% sure if this came out or was, it obviously wasn't written in 2024, but I'm not sure if it came out or like maybe some of the books were released, but it's a series, but it became really popular this year was the Akatar series. And I've mentioned it's like the Court of Thorns and Roses, like those books by like, I think it's Sarah Maas. And I finished the first one and I'm like halfway through the second one. So, but that was like really big this year.
Okay.
So
nice.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So my song of the year, which really is not from 2024, it's like maybe from 2018, but I will share it. I just discovered it in 2024, and that was Post Malone. I had never even heard of Post Malone until this year, so that just shows how behind the scenes I can get it at a certain point. But it was Circles. And so it is an older song. So I'm going to be better in 2025. I have the whole year to discover new artists and make sure that song is in 2025. So when we do this next year, I'll be prepared. But As far as TV show, I really have a hard time deciding on which one because I mean, I loved Landman. I thought
Mhm.
that was excellent. And I also liked the one that No One Wants This that you talked
Yeah.
Oh, nobody wants this. Yeah.
Nobody Wants This. I thought that was excellent. But I think I'm going to land on Shrinking,
Oh, yeah.
which
Hmm.
is
I haven't seen that one.
you haven't seen
It's
that?
very
There,
it's
and
very
there's two
cute.
seasons. So it came out in
Mm-mm.
2023 and then they had their second season this year. And their second season is not quite wrapped up yet.
Mhm.
We still have a few more episodes to drop, but it's Harrison Ford and Jason Segel and it is just excellent. It's
Yeah.
just so I mean it's just so warm and but yet real and
Mhm.
honest and there again the acting is great. I mean Harrison
Mhm.
Ford is at the top of his game.
Yeah, it's so fun to see him in a comedy.
It really is, and he
Yeah.
just does such a great job. And there again, very well written, very well produced, and all of the supporting actors really come in and really
Mhm.
help Harrison and Jason and their characters. And it's a great premise. I mean, the show starts off where Jason Siegel's character is a widower and not dealing well with it, and that's in the 2023 series. And then this year he seems to have his act together a little bit more, but
But
does
he's
he
still
but does he really?
still grieving. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing because I mean, I'm a widow. I completely understand what he's going through and you
Mhm.
do go through these patches, especially at the very beginning of your grief journey where you're fine, you're not fine, you're fine, you're not fine.
Yeah.
And then the fines really do start to extend a lot more than the not fines. But I mean, it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a journey. And so I really appreciate how they've tackled that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they portray it really well in the
hmm
series.
which is great.
Yeah.
So and then as far as a book, and I'm going to maybe I should just save this for new and
Mhm.
noteworthy, but I've already recommended this book this year, but I loved it so much, and I love this writer also so very very much, and that's Kristen Hanna. And this year she released The Women, which was all about the nurses in the Vietnam War.
Mhm.
It was an excellent, excellent book. So that has really stuck with me.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are my recs for 2024. And is there anything else we want to say about New Year's resolutions? I did find the history of it was we do have a foundational piece, and that was the history of New Year's
I was
resolutions.
actually surprised to read that
Hmm
it's an ancient idea.
It is.
I thought that was really
I know.
kind of took me by surprise, but I was like, "Whoa,
The ancient Babylonians
yeah,
are said to have been the first people to make New Year's resolutions,
hmm,
and that was over 4,000 years ago,
it's
which I
amazing."
think is interesting. I really do. So we do have a foundational piece if you're interested in that. But anything else we want to talk about for 2025?
I think
No,
so.
no,
So, all right.
I think we covered it.
Okay. Well, that wraps up this segment of our podcast. And stay tuned. We're going to take a quick break and we will be back with new and noteworthy. And we're back with New and Noteworthy, where Chelsea, Kelly, and I just share something that's on our radar screen. It could be a product, it could be a TV show, book, music, whatever comes to mind. So, Kelly, I'll kick it off with you.
Okay, so I have a book to share, and it is Share the Memoir. And I couldn't believe actually. So it's a two-part. The book is coming out in two parts. Part one is just released.
Uh huh.
And honestly, I did not even realize that Cher had never written a memoir
Uh huh.
up until this point.
Uh
I
huh.
thought it was when I read
How
that it
old is
was,
she? She's
um,
got to be in her
yeah,
80s.
yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, she comes from a long line of. I mean, her story is incredible. First of all, just her childhood and growing up, and
Hmm
what her family life was like, and who her mom ended up being. And I mean, her mom was an actress, and was on her way to becoming Hollywood royalty, but it just never worked out that way for her, and
hmm
in that big kind of way. But about half the book is narrated by Cher herself, which I always like that with an
hmm
autobiography or a memoir.
hmm
Um, she kind of trades off reading or narrating with one of her close friends or very like close producer friends or something like that. And their
Mm-hmm.
voices are different, but not so different that you're put off by it.
Okay.
Which I know can sometimes startle you when you're, listening to a book and the narrator all of a sudden changes, but it's supposed to be the same person.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't find it too difficult to kind of keep the momentum going. But yeah, what a fascinating woman, fascinating life.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I agree.
yeah,
I've always
so
loved her.
me too.
Since I mean, I was a young girl when she was very popular with Sunny, and
Mhm.
then they had the best variety show,
Yeah,
the Sunny and Cher show.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, loved that show. They did such a great job, and it was interesting. So, and I bet the memoir will reveal this. So I guess they were really on the outs during the end, or maybe even halfway through.
the
That's
show.
the show.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I haven't gotten to where she meets Sunny yet in the book. I'm still
Oh,
reading
okay.
it. And I'm actually
'Cause
curious
she's
if
quite young. She was like 16, I think, when she met Sunny.
yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
actually wondering how much of the Sunny years are going to be in book one, or maybe they're in book two. I'm not sure how she's divvied up, how she's pacing
Mhm.
Mm.
the because she starts when she's basically a baby.
Okay.
So
Wow.
it starts at the very beginning of her
Okay, at the
life.
very beginning,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And her mom was a very pivotal person in her life, I believe,
Well,
wasn't
her mom
she?
was super young. I think her mom was 13 years old or something when she had her.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah, she
moly.
was super young. 13, or she might have been 17, but she was still a teenager,
Mhm.
not ready to
13
No.
and
have a kid.
17 are very
I
different.
know, right?
Well, yeah, I guess, but then, it's funny because her mom was also born. So maybe it was her mom was born to a very young mom, so her grandma was super young,
Uh-huh.
and then her mom had her super young. So it was this three
Mhm.
generations of
Yeah.
grandma, mom, and daughter, and they were all very close in age.
Right.
Mm. Interesting.
Okay.
Anyway,
Chelsea, what do you have for noon? No, well, I'm curious to read it. So,
yeah,
and it's interesting that she's splitting it up into
two parts.
two
Yeah,
parts, two books. I hope they do like a documentary too.
that would be great.
I know.
A lot of good footage.
Mhm. Mhm. I mean, she is a fascinating character
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
a real spitfire. Okay, Chelsea, what do you have for us?
I have Noteworthy. So I had already seen this movie at home, and then me and Andrew actually just went and watched it this past week in Imax because they did the 10-year release, but Interstellar
Mhm.
with Matthew McConaughey.
Oh yeah.
Um, and
So
um,
they re-released it?
yeah, because it's the 10-year since it came
Oh,
out. So it's been
okay.
10 years.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the movie theater was packed. There wasn't a seat
Oh,
empty in the
that's
theater,
nice.
which was crazy. And at first, when we first started, because we had gone to dinner and drinks before, and I was like, Interstellar, and Andrew's like, we had watched it maybe a year ago, and then he's like, it's the movie that you watched, and then you got like sucked into 5 million like YouTube and TikTok videos on the universe and space.
Oh yeah.
And I actually did like, and then I basically watched all of the space movies that you could watch.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh yeah. And then when we started watching in the theater, then it came back to me.
Mhm.
But it really kind of brought back, I was like, that is such a rewatchable movie. And when I tell you that movie, I mean, it's like, I mean, it has you like bawling.
Yeah.
Like when he's the one section where, he's up in space and then they've lost, X amount of time and he's watching the videos of like basically his kid's life,
Mm-hmm.
after,
Mhm.
and then, it's a good movie.
Yeah,
Mhm.
But
I enjoy that movie. I've seen it a few times. Saw it when it first came out in the
yeah.
theater. Yeah, it's really worth seeing on the big screen.
It was cool to see it in IMAX because all of the space scenes, I mean, when they're taking off and all of that, like was super loud and you could almost like feel the whole theater like
Mhm.
shaking.
Yeah,
And then it was like once they got into like out of orbit or, and then it was just like dead silent,
yeah,
which was kind of
Mhm.
cool.
yeah.
Now, who else
So,
is in the movie?
What is the redhead, the daughter's name when she grows up? What is, because she's kind of,
oh,
I can't think of what her name is.
um,
Matthew McConaughey is the big one, but you would maybe know the daughter, the grown up version of the daughter.
Amy Adams.
Mhm.
It's not
Oh
Amy
no, Jessica
Adams.
Chastain. I always
Jessica
get those
Oh,
Chastain.
two
Jessica
Yeah.
redheads
Chastain.
mixed up.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, no,
Okay.
Anne Hathaway's in it.
oh, Anne
That's what
Hathaway.
I thought.
Yeah,
I thought.
yeah.
Salome's in it.
Yeah, I thought
Mm-hmm.
she was in it.
I
That's
forgot Anne Hathaway because she's
yeah.
kind of
Matt Damon.
she's not, Anne Hathaway's not really like the leading character in that, but she
No, she's not.
yeah.
Mm.
Oh, Matt Damon's in it as well.
Oh yeah, Matt Damon's in it.
Oh,
Well, he also
Bit,
comes in.
bit part. He does that a lot. Matt Damon is really good at just popping up into a movie for like
Like,
3 scenes and then
uh-huh,
he's out and you're like, wow,
uh-huh,
was that Matt Damon? What the
uh-huh.
hell?
But then Matt
He's really
Damon
good
was
at doing that.
also wasn't he was in Mars, right? And he was like the main person in
Right.
Mars
Martian.
Uh-huh.
or The Martian,
Yeah.
sorry, which
Mhm.
I also watched a year ago when I got on this whole
When you got on
space kick
your space
after
kick.
Interstellar.
Uh-huh.
But great movie if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, it
Okay.
is fantastic.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing.
Just
So,
really quick, I
yeah,
just want to say that I had to fact check myself, and Cher's mom, Georgia Holt, was 13 when she gave
just
birth.
13. Oh
Okay.
my
Or
gosh.
14 when
That's
she gave birth, but
Well,
13 when she
yeah,
gave birth.
holy
she probably
moly.
just had her first period and then
I was
got
gonna say, my
knocked
gosh.
up. Wow,
Oh,
that's
geez.
crazy. I know. I can't even imagine that. I just
No,
can't even imagine that.
that's crazy.
Do we know how old Cher was when she had Chastity, who is now,
I don't know.
she was actually very young as well,
Um,
but not that young. I mean, she was like in her 20s, I think. But she met Sonny when she was 16. I know that. So,
well, yeah, I mean, everybody seemed to have been on
mhm.
the fast track here. But yeah, her grandma was also 13 years old when she gave birth to her mother.
Wow,
Holy moly.
Yeah.
that is
Oh my
crazy.
gosh.
That is, yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Anyway, sorry.
That is crazy. Okay. So I already talked about my favorite book. So that is The Women by Kristen Hanna. But I also liked, and I had forgotten about this TV show, and that is The Gilded Age.
Oh my
Oh, I
gosh.
love The
Right?
Gilded Age.
I
Yeah.
know. That
Yeah,
was
that's
such a
great.
great show.
I have
Did
to
that come
imagine
out in
it's coming back
2024?
soon.
Yes, it's
I
supposed to.
did. Yeah, I
The
liked that
first
one.
season came out in
23.
23,
Yeah.
and then they had season 2 in 2024.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I thought both seasons were excellent. But
Yeah.
anyway, so
I really enjoyed that show. I
that
was
was
just thinking about that the other
such a good
day.
show. I
Yeah.
love period pieces, and I love to when a show really encompasses, history.
Hmm.
It's that historical fiction, and then you have the costumes, and everything is just jiving just so beautifully together. And that was written by Julian Fellows,
Yes.
who did
Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey. Yes, which I also that was an excellent, excellent
Yes.
series. So,
One of my
anyways, yeah.
favorites.
So that was a TV show that was not written by Taylor Sheridan,
But
and
by another beloved
that's
television
right.
writer,
I
Julian
know.
Fellows. Yeah.
Hmm. Who was also at the top of his game. So, all right, ladies. Well, that wraps it up for another episode of Message from Mom, where we're busting the myth that mothers-in-law aren't necessarily monsters-in-law.